Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, we are just starting the YouTube live. Pooja, ma'am, is it live?
Start. Hamsini, it's live now. You can start.
All right. A very warm welcome to all the respected parents, students, educators, and guests joining us today. A special welcome to our speaker of the evening, Suvarna ma'am. So on behalf of Rockwoods International and Rockwoods Junior College, I, Hamsini, English faculty, extend my heartfelt greetings to each one of you. Thank you for taking your time to be a part of this insightful webinar on the topic, Developing Critical Thinking Skills. Now, before we begin the session, I would like to request all of you to kindly keep your microphones muted during the presentation. You may use the chat box below to share your thoughts or even questions. We will have a Q&A discussion segment towards the end of the session. Parents and students are both encouraged to participate actively. Any questions anybody put in the chat box, we will be getting to them towards the end. Now, a little about Rockwoods. Here at Rockwoods, we strongly believe that education is not merely about memorizing information, but about nurturing thinkers, innovators, problem solvers, and responsible global citizens. In today's rapidly changing world, where information reaches us every second through social media, advertisements, news, and technology, critical thinking has become one of the most essential skills of every learner. In fact, critical thinking is considered one of the most important 21st century skills alongside creativity, communication, collaboration, and problem solving. The future belongs not only to students who can score marks, but to those who can analyze situations, question ideas, make responsible decisions, and adapt to new challenges with confidence. Now, let's understand this with an example. We often come across advertisements that confidently claim 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this toothpaste. I'm sure all of you know which toothpaste I'm talking about. Most people, when they hear such statements, what they end up doing is they immediately accept them as truths. But a critical thinker pauses and asks, which doctors were surveyed? How many people participated in the study? Who funded the research? And what does recommended actually mean? Is there any reliable evidence behind such advertisements? So now, the moment of pausing, questioning, analyzing, and seeking evidence, that is the beginning of critical thinking. Critical thinking teaches children not to blindly accept every claim they hear, read, or watch. Instead, it empowers them to independently think, evaluate information carefully, and make informed decisions around it, and become confident learners and responsible citizens. So, now today's session is designed to help parents, students understand what critical thinking truly means, why is it important in academics and life, and how can children develop analytical and independent thinking abilities. So for this, we are extremely honored and privileged to have with us distinguished academician and researcher who has dedicated decades to this field of education. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's esteemed speaker, Dr. G. Suvarna Lakshmi. Professor G. Suvarna Lakshmi is professor in the Department of English Language Teaching at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Been actively engaged in teacher for more than 2.5 decades now. Here, her areas of specialization include teacher education, critical thinking, methods and materials for language teaching. Professor Suvarna Lakshmi has presented research papers at more than 70 national and international conferences, reflecting her deep contribution to the field of education and language pedagogy. Adding to her remarkable academic journey, she has over 60 research publications to her credit. Ma'am, we are truly grateful for your presence today, and, and thank you for accepting our invitation to interact with our parent-student community. I now request Professor G. Suvarna Lakshmi ma'am to kindly take over the session.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Hamsini, for that long introduction, both for me and to the topic critical thinking. It's a very interesting beginning to think about how advertisements misguide us and how critical thinking is necessary for all of us in all walks of life. And so, as you see the title of my presentation, it is Critical Thinking for All. Yeah, moving on to, I would like to be, even before we start looking at this slide, let me ask the participants their opinions on the statements that I give you now. The first one, how many of you believe this as a fact? The sun rises in the east. Can we have something like a poll, or the responses can be seen in the chat?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it in the chat.
Okay, good.
Dear audience, we are requested to, give your opinion in the chat box. Please feel free to participate.
There's also a thumbs up that you can use to show yes or thumbs down for no.
Yeah, I could see couple of thumbs up. Good, thanks. Okay, does sun really move from one place to another, from one direction to another? Isn't it the Earth's rotation that gives us day and light? Yeah. So we need to start thinking about the facts that we are being taught about and how critically analyze whether it is a fact or not. As you see, there is a statement given here, uh, taking off from Hamsini's statement. Generally, messages on the WhatsApp, very common one. Doctors confirmed. So, drinking warm water with lemon and turmeric every day, every morning for 7 days completely flushes toxins from your liver and prevents cancer. Share this with. So, if you receive such kind of message, how many of you immediately share it with others?
There are a couple of people who are saying me, ma'am, and
Sorry, there are a couple of
people who are saying me, and they are also reacting with thumbs up.
Good, thanks. Because I joined from my mobile, I have very limited access to the responses. I'm sorry. I request the organizers to help me with this. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. What is, can we go to the next slide? Could you please answer these? Please unmute to answer these questions. What made you feel?
Ma'am, they cannot unmute themselves and speak, but they can definitely
Okay.
use the chat box, and they can also use reactions to answer all the questions.
Good, great. Probably, Pooja, you should help me if there are any notable kind of messages in the chat
Sure, ma'am.
box.
Sure.
Yeah. So, what made it feel believable? Why did the message that is given in the previous slide, what made you believe that it is true to the extent that you share it with your loved ones?
Maybe the statement that is written below, that if you, love someone, share it, seems
Mhm.
very promising. In the chat box, we can also see somebody has written it's about health. So we do care. And somebody is saying warm water, good for health. Care is one point
Good.
that made it believable. And
Good.
the word
Thanks a
that
lot.
doctors has confirmed, the urgency in the tone as well. All these reasons they are stating, ma'am, to believe that, it's we need to share it.
Shall we go to the previous slide once, Pooja?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. The message, if you look at it, starts with the word urgent. And it also says doctors confirmed. And we tend to believe that it is, if it comes from the mouth of a doctor, then definitely it must be true. And it is warm water, nothing harmful, so we tend to take it. And it is also talking about lemon. And the major claim here is within 7 days, it flushes a whole toxins in your liver and also prevents cancer. The crux of the message is that how many of you believe these two? That 7 days of drinking warm water with lemon will help you flush out all the toxins in your liver and also prevent cancer. Okay, not many responses, I suppose, but I am very sure we haven't thought about what is the impact of it when we forward such kind of messages. I know it also says the emotional, it also taps the emotional aspect of the readers. It says before you delete, share it with your loved ones. So that is another emotional aspect that taps you and makes you forward or share it with people. If at all you're supposed to check such kind of messages, what would you do to check such ones? To confirm that this is true. You can think about this. If your mother sent it to you, does that change anything for you? So if it comes to you from your mother, what does it mean to you? Think about these. Say, if I were to respond to this question, if my mother sends it to me, my mother, who is a little more sensible, who also knows things, if she is sharing with me, sure, I'll think twice and also try it for myself, thinking that it is not going to harm my health or body much because it is only warm water and lemon. But if it is something else, take this tablet or use this particular combination of any household ingredients and drink it for so many days, and you will lose weight, you will lose that, you will lose this, you will be away from this ailment, something chronic, you'll be very healthy. We tend to believe, and that belief system is something which we want to stop and look back to question. This is where we need to become critical thinkers. Move to the next slide. The problem is never that we are very foolish. It is only that the problem, we are wired to share the things that feel true, especially when it comes from someone we love. So that is where the question of taking the facts. Now, what is very natural for us and what should be critical thinking is what we'll be discussing in the next slide. Natural thinking is what we are born with. All of us as human beings are born with certain thinking abilities. It's not trained. We tend to go by what instantly comes to us, and it comes as an instinct to us. It's untrained thinking. It is biased and prejudiced because we tend to think only from the point of view that you already know or you're trained to do. So it is biased, it is prejudiced, it is distorted from the truth most of the times. It also depends on how you memorize the facts. And you also think that somebody should give you knowledge. Some institution needs to educate you, and somebody else should give you knowledge. This also leads to culture shocks when you go to a different place. If somebody behaves or talks to you in a different way, you tend to get into a culture shock. You adopt knowledge and skills. You don't think about what it is, why it is required for you, and how it is going to be useful for you. You just learn them because they are being taught to you. But if you are a critical thinker, you're a trained thinker. You need to be trained to get out of the regular, uh, habituated thinking. And you also need to know how to learn things rather than what to learn. This applies more to the teachers as well. As parents and teachers, we are also supposed to think about how should I train my ward, my child, or my student to learn what they're expected to learn. And they're also supposed to be trained on processing the information that is given, not take as it is, like the ad that we talked about, 9 doctors out of 10, or the message that I was talking about, the warm water and lemon given by a doctor, and so on. What is that which we are supposed to do? Is it right or wrong? Cross check with the facts and then go ahead sharing such kind of information or promoting such kind of products, even. So, once you start um, being independent, thinking and processing, you also know how to learn things. You become autonomous learner. Autonomy is related to independence. You don't wait for your teacher to teach you what comes later. You become curious to know how much to learn, what to learn, and how fast you can learn. So that makes you an autonomous learner. You also will be flexible and at will according to your wish. You tend to learn, and you also tend to change the time at which you want to learn and how much you want to learn. You become the master of your own learning system. You also absorb culture shocks. Can anybody give me an example of a culture shock?
Ma'am, once they put in something in the chat box, I'll read it to you.
Please do, please do.
example of a culture shock. Indian parents in USA.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Many of the parents, when they go to US, looking at the starting from their dressing style to the time they wake up, the kind of food they have, the work culture they have, everything becomes a shock for the parents who go for the first time to US to see their children. And similarly, we also get a lot of examples from our foreign students when they come to India. The first thing they talk about in Hyderabad is the chaotic roads, that is the traffic. There is no lane discipline to anyone. People cross the roads wherever they want to. There is no signal for crossing. Pedestrians are not given importance. There is no um, uh, footpaths everywhere for all the roads. Kind of things are culture shocks for foreigners who come to India. They also see that sometimes they expect Indian teachers to be dressing like the British or the West if we are supposed to teach them English. And when they see us in very traditional Indian dresses, they find that also as a culture shock. How can women teachers wearing saris and dress up in a very traditional way, speak in English, and so on? So these are simple culture shocks. There could be other examples like a newly wedded groom goes to the in-laws house. She feels that everything is so different from her house, how her mother makes things, starting from the cooking to the way everything is being prepared and shared and so on. So such ones are culture shocks, and these are smaller ones which we are supposed to accept as people doing it differently at different places. But sometimes we become so adamant saying that what we are doing is right and what others are doing is wrong. Um, that is where critical thinking helps us expand our thinking, accept other cultures. So, what we are now talking about cross cultural communication, acceptance of other cultures, absorbing other cultures, practices, and so on, is part of our critical thinking. Yeah, could you please display the same slide?
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute.
Yeah, that's about being flexible and having the ability to absorb culture shock. And the next one is adapting knowledge and skills. Now, I have learned some skill in one language in one particular context. My ability to adapt it and also apply it at other places makes me a critical thinker. Um, for example, I know how to screw unscrew. I'm talking about very small children. Children learn how to screw and unscrew the bottles caps, and they apply it to everything, and they also start doing it with bigger machines. Even sometimes it is so dangerous that they do it, they try and experiment even with machines in the house, like fans or any other things that are reachable to them. They try to screw and unscrew, practice it everywhere. And that is what we should help them with, where we should tell them that, okay, this screwing, unscrewing practice cannot be done with everything. And train them what are the do's and don'ts of such kind of actions. Moving on. Now, when you every concept that you want to learn, there can be 6 different ways of thinking. So that is what is presented in the form of thinking, 6 thinking hats that is being proposed by Edward D. Bano. So the six thinking hats you, the first thing you think about is I'm after the facts and just the factual information. The first and what are the alternatives? The green hat particularly talks about the creative aspect of it. The black hat is like a warning bell. It sees both positives and negatives. Finally, the yellow hat will be exploring for the value and benefits of any kind of action. Now, if these types of thinking are supposed to be taught in a class, you can happily take a story into the classroom and help the students to think from different perspectives, where each had all exercise.
Ma'am, we can't hear you. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, next slide, please.
Ma'am, we are in.
Hello, could you please change the slide?
Is it okay now, ma'am? Swati ma'am, please share the six
Yeah,
thinking hat action.
ma'am, I've shared 6 hats
The
in
next
action
one.
here. Is this the one you're looking for?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So when you wear each of the hats, I'll be reinforcing in this slide. For example, if I'm wearing a white hat, I will be looking at what evidence do you have uh, about the subjects that actually produce better humans or better societies. For example, if we are looking at the same message that I began with, the warm water and lemon, what is the evidence that we have to say that this is going to cleanse my liver? The next one, if I'm wearing a red hat, which subject, if erased forever, makes you feel actual grief or pain and why? So primarily when you wear a red hat, it talks about your emotions. The next one is a black hat. The black hat, as we already talked about, looks at the dangers. It plays a devil's advocate role and it says, what if you regularly have it and something else happens to your health? Instead of making it positive for you, what if some other problem crops up because of it? And the yellow hat, it says, if we teach only these six things brilliantly, what kind of world becomes possible? So, the future of it and what are the positive aspects of it? When it comes to the green one is about how you creatively think about it. And the last one is the blue one. are we deciding based on what helped us? So, what is right, what is wrong, and how we come to actual conclusion is how the blue hat helps us. Now, can you move on to the next slide where there is a short anecdote?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So, all of you, audience, I request you to read the first paragraph of this slide. It says, one day, Colonel Saab from the army fell into a well. The soldiers would throw a rope into the well and pull the Colonel Saab out. The moment the colonel would come up, the soldiers would leave the rope and snap to attention and salute. The Colonel Saab would fall back into the well, and this happened many times. The alternative that they could think about is someone suggested that a brigadier be requested to help because he wouldn't salute to the colonel. So one brigadier Saab arrived. He threw the rope into the well. Gapped it. The brigadier Saab began pulling the rope. As soon as the Colonel Saab saw the brigadier, he left the rope on the spot and saluted, and back to the well is the colonel. Now, looking at this context, what are the facts here? What do you think can be a solution for this problem? Yeah, you can post your responses in the chat box again.
Someone has put in the chat box, any common person.
That's great. Any
any
other
com-
alternatives?
Any common person can pull him up, they say. Another, Pooja has said lack of critical thinking. Someone has said, let the soldier attach the rope and nail it to the edge so the colonel could climb up on his own.
Okay, good. So these are the alternatives for a simple problem that anybody could encounter in a day. Okay, positions are important, but at the time when it comes to life and death, it has to be the life that is more important when compared to the problem of cadres and the regular rituals that are supposed to be, or the rites that are supposed to be performed. Moving on, let us look at how critically assess every thought, how we should do every day. Now, one thing that promotes critical thinking is, or we process thinking, is language. So, language becomes the heart of critical thinking. Unless a person is processing the language that is given in the form of information or input, you will not be able to express your thought.
Looks like we have lost Miss Professor Swarna Lakshmi. Ma'am, can you hear us? We are unable to hear you, ma'am. Professor? Ma'am, are you able to hear us? Okay, looks like ma'am will take a minute to join us. Meanwhile, I would like to also, bring back the focus on critical thinking that ma'am had just spoken about. It's quite interesting. I'm sure all the viewers will agree with me that the example of the kernel that we just heard about, right? So there are so many opportunities for us to, come out of any given situation if we only apply our minds. And for that, like ma'am said, to critically assess every thought we have, it is language is a major building block. So what ma'am would would have suggested would probably be in terms of how do we strategize our thinking, how do we rationalize our thought. And for all of this, I would invite the viewers to take a minute to think about it and put their thoughts in the chat window about how in any particular situation, if they have come across any situation like the kernel example that we discussed, how did they handle it? Can you take a minute to think and post it in the chat as to what is it that you faced and how did you handle it? Thank you.
There's an interesting response in the chat where someone has talked about balance between discipline and common sense. I think that's a very interesting observation.
Right, good to hear. In fact, when ma'am was talking about the previous example, the kernel, example, I was also, kind of racking my brain as to what could be done. There are so many things in our daily life, where we just have to take a minute and, think about it. Ma'am has suggested that, language, if we put together, our thought process as to how do we rationalize our thought into a language. I think a major point would be where we come from, right? Are we culturally equipped? Are we have we been conditioned to think in such a manner? If I as like the colonels were conditioned to think that if they saw the brigadier, they have to salute. The army had to salute the personnel had to salute the colonel. So they were conditioned. The culture aspect was brought in, and so they behaved in such a manner. Also, like ma'am was suggesting, education, our background, where we are from, also does play a huge role as to how we behave in different situations. So thinking, taking a scientific approach in such situations would definitely, be useful to us, to assess what is the situation and how do we go about it. So what ma'am has, tried to imply over here is that there are, it could be the social implications or the behavior or the open-mindedness that we have to bring in to assess our thoughts. And all of this would definitely impact, it would help us react properly. Most of I wouldn't say react, because most of us react to situations instead of reacting. Actually, responding to situations would help, and for that, critically assessing every thought is extremely important. While we wait for ma'am, I would just read out what ma'am has tried to portray over here, that there are certain intellectual traits that bring in are responsible for our behavior in any particular situation. So intellectual humility, intellectual courage, intellectual empathy, autonomy, intellectual integrity, intellectual perseverance are all very important traits while you're critically assessing any particular situation. And of course, confidence in your reasoning. If you are fair minded and if you have a good reasoning system, then obviously you would have clarity, and the meaning can be grasped, and of course this would further lead to in accuracy, or you would be free from errors or distortions, and as such. So definitely the traits that a human has brings in clarity, accuracy, precision, relevance, depth, breadth, logic, significance, and fairness in each of our thought process. I would try to go back and check if ma'am has joined us back. Ma'am, can you hear us? Okay, so there is a message in the chat window where a person saying that I'd definitely love to learn more about the 6 hats. We would also want to, do that. Probably we can have another session where we would, connect with ma'am again and explore more about what needs to be done in, to critically think and come out of, any particular situation that we are placed in. So, Hamsini, are there any Q&As, question and answers in the Q&A box that we can take up, or we close this today?
I don't see any questions, but let's just give them 2 minutes to put in any questions. We can probably take the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
If there is anything that we could help out, we are not
Yes.
as professionally equipped as Professor Suvarna Lakshmi, but yes, being in the position of a leader, me as well as Hamsini, if we can help anybody, any student has any question, we'd like to take that up. Otherwise, thank you for being there. Are there any questions, Hamsini?
I don't see any questions. So we can close the session. Should I do the vote of
Yes,
should I
yes,
do the
yes,
closing
please.
remarks?
Also, viewers, we'd like to tell you, parents, teachers, and viewers who joined us today, we would definitely reconnect with ma'am and try to bring a very good session, because this is something that we've just started the spark. I believe it was a very, very interesting session, at least for me. We would definitely connect with ma'am and come back to you on this session again. Thank you. Hamsini?
Yes. All right. So thank you, Swati ma'am. So thanks everyone for
Hamsini,
all the.
Hamsini,
Yes.
please
Yes.
wait. Ma'am has joined. Okay.
All right. All right.
Yeah, just a minute.
We can ask ma'am to pick it up from 6 hats,
Yes.
because
Swarna
has.
ma'am, we have given the permission.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, right. I'll quickly close by explaining this framework. Language is a crux of critical thinking, and schemata and culture form how language is supposed to be used, and education will refine your thoughts. When you are getting educated, you are supposed to train students in adopt scientific approach, and strategy training, particularly for language learning, is another important aspect of training students both in language as well as critical thinking. And critical thinking primarily depends on the domains, traits, and standards, which we'll be discussing in the next slide. And the social implications and behavior of an individual is the output of critical thinking. So, this is not just learning and how you actually behave or get an output in the form of education as better grades and all, but in the form of how an individual becomes part of a society that is more educated and that can think critically. Yeah, next slide, please. So the traits and standards are here. The intellectual humility, courage, empathy, autonomy, integrity, perseverance, and confidence in reason. These are the traits, and particularly the last one, fair-mindedness. It's not you and me, but if one rule is to be formed, it has to be applicable to everyone at all places. So that is fair mindedness. Because it is my brother, it is a different rule. If it is me, it is a different rule. If it is somebody else, it is a different rule. No, it doesn't change. Fair mindedness is have the same role, same rule being applied to everyone equally. And when you are trying to talk about anything, it has to have clarity, it has to have accuracy, precision, relevance, depth and breadth. You need to think about it. There should be logic in it. There should be significance of of the topic that you speak about, and also to be justifiable. So these are the standards of thinking. Now you can move on to the last slide. So these are the domains. Domains are cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. The cognitive domain, I think all of us are very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy that talks about cognitive domain. In the same Bloom's taxonomy, we also have affective domain and psychomotor domain. Every task that we give in a class to the student should involve all the three domains. We generally focus only on the cognitive domains, but we are also supposed to think about the affective domain, that is a emotional aspect of it, and how feelings in the growth of an individual are also supposed to be taken into consideration. And the next one is a psychomotor domain, that is a manual or physical kind of skills that you also need to train the students in. It doesn't mean that a student who is getting educated in an elite school should not learn any other art, starting from the clay pots, making a clay pot art, making a painting, any other activity that they should do creatively is also supposed to be part of their education. And dignity of labor also is supposed to be taught for all people. So it's not only mother who needs to do the kitchen cleaning, anybody in the house should do it. Sort of things can be taught to the students and train them that everybody has to share, take the responsibility. Most of the times, parents think that students getting grades is a responsibility of the teachers and the school. And when the student fails to get a good grade, the parents become very furious, saying this school is not good, and they immediately tend to take a decision of changing the schools and so on. No, it is also our responsibility. It is also the students' responsibility. It is not just a responsibility of the teacher. All together will give you a good, positive, comprehensive result. So, all the students should be taught how to take responsibility of their own grades, their own performance in the classroom or the examinations. Parents should also take that responsibility along with the teachers and the schools. Um, yeah, you can move on. This Hamsini actually has covered most of it. We can move on. Move to the last slide. Ah, no, the previous one. Benefits of critical thinking. When you become a critical thinker, the first thing is you get engaged in contemplating. Every thought becomes conscious, and you start learning things consciously. Learning tends to be permanent because you process it, you are personally involved in it. It enhances empathy. If anything happens to the other person, you also tend to feel for him or her as they do. Makes you become open minded and fair minded thinker. It enables you to face challenges. So these are the prime outcomes of becoming a critical thinker. We already talked about it. What education in critical thinking implies is reflection analysis, acquisition of information. You also learn to be creative. You should have commitment. You turn out to be a debater, like positives and negatives of the same, structuring arguments. All these are the skills that you develop as you become a critical thinker. The next one, please. Yeah, move on. It would be repetitive. Yeah. Critical thinking, finally, is to resolve problems and make yourself a comfortable human being. Thank you for your time and for your patience listening. I'm very sorry for the network problems that I faced during the session.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Agnes, for
So-
making me part of this.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enriching and an engaging session. Despite the technical glitches, I would like to go back to the ideas and examples that you have shared with us today. So, be it the 6 hats that you've talked about, that's something that we would want to go back and read more about. And also the kernel example that was really fascinating and also helped us understand quite a lot of, like, developed a lot of deeper understanding. So a lot of it was, as the title of the PPT said, critical thinking for all, has helped us understand how this is beyond the classroom and how parents and people around society can help develop critical thinking. So we sincerely appreciate the time and efforts that you have taken to guide our parent-student community here. So I'm sure today's webinar has inspired parents, students, to become more thoughtful, mindful, curious, and reflective learners. So, do we have sometimes questions, or would we call it a day?
I think we
I
would
think
really
we would have
want to come back
interacted.
someday.
It was an
Sorry.
interactive session, so I think we can close it, Hamsini. Thank you,
Yes,
Swarna
yes,
ma'am.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All
all
right.
dears. Bye bye.